Welcome to Students Incorporated, a podcast exploring the topics of business, education, technology, and design. I'm your host, Mr. Jason. Join me weekly as my team and I produce content that's informative, positive, fun, and uplifting. Episodes include student conversations, interviews with thought leaders, and inspirational stories with an international flavor. This podcast is created and produced with the help of students from the International Community School of Bangkok. Hello and welcome back to Students Incorporated. I'm Mr. Jason and I'll be your host today. This episode happens to be our 55th episode. Each season, my team and I produce 32 episodes, which means we are well over halfway through our second season. I want to thank all of our loyal listeners out there for sticking with us. Also, if you are a newcomer to our podcast, we hope you stick around and give us a try. I think you'll find something of interest. Today, I'm joined by our Season 2 team again, and we've decided to do something a little special for the remaining 10 episodes of Season 2. Before we get into our first segment of this episode, let's hear our quote of the day and get some headline news.
Hey everyone, Rebecca here again. Our quote of the day comes from Seth Godin. He's quoted as saying, "Marketing is no longer about the stuff that you make, but about the stories you tell." In today's world, consumers are no longer just interested in the product itself, but in the emotions and experiences associated with it. This shift in focus has led to the rise of storytelling as a powerful marketing tool. By crafting compelling narratives around their products, brands can create deeper connections with their audience and drive sales. This quote highlights the importance of story in modern marketing strategies, emphasizing the need for brands to engage consumers on an emotional level. And that's our quote of the day.
Hi again, Chanya here. Here are some headline news from around the world. Our first news piece comes out of Norman, Oklahoma. World Literature Today, an award-winning magazine produced by the University of Oklahoma that highlights international literature and culture, recently announced the 28th laureate of the New Stunt International Prize for Literature. Laureate is a person who has been honored for achieving distinction in a particular field. This honor went to Ananda Devi. She is from a small island east of Africa named Mauritius. Ananda has become a major voice of the Francophone world and has written 25 books. Her work has been translated into over a dozen languages and has been recognized in France as well. Moving on to our next news item, we head over to Dublin, Ireland. In only a few weeks, on the 26th of March, the Dublin Literary Award shortlist will be publicly revealed, showing which of the 70 books were considered as top choices. With such high stakes, such as a €100,000 prize for the winner, there is bound to be an air of tension, especially with the wide array of books being nominated from 35 different countries. Fortunately for the public, these books are available for the public to borrow and read from all libraries in the city of Dublin and around Ireland, so readers can formulate their own book rankings. Our last news comes from the great region of Scandinavia. With a reward of over 300,000 Danish krone and the Nordalis statuette, the annual Nordic Council's Literature Prize has revealed its list of nominees for the 2024 chapter, with 13 nominations from 5 different Nordic countries. Each year's winning piece of literature has reflected the time we live in and serve as cultural proponents that help to raise interest in Nordic culture and has also been considered outstanding in its environmental and artistic efforts. The unveiling of the winners will take place in autumn, where the awards ceremony will be held in conjunction with the Nordic Council session in Reykjavik, Iceland.
We are back for our first segment of this episode, and I welcome our entire Season 2 team back to the studio. The last time we were all together in the studio for a recording, we were working on an episode 52 titled, How to Make a Podcast.
Yeah, and quick side note, if you haven't already listened to that one, be sure to go back and listen to that one. It's really fun to be back together again, especially with Chanya and Hao on the show, getting to hear more voices on the podcast. Super excited for this one as well. It's going to be great.
We received some positive feedback from the listeners on that particular how-to formatted episode, so thank you to our listeners for that feedback. It's a big encouragement to us when we hear back from you, especially if you really like a specific topic or episode format. But now, Chanya is going to start us off by explaining what we're going to be doing for our final 10 episodes of Season 2.
Thank you, and I'm really excited about this idea. Since the beginning of time, stories have been a main source of communicating ideas, concepts, truths, and principles. Stories teach us about history and the people that have come before us. Stories can inspire or depress us. Stories can be fictional. Stories can be true or a mixture of both. One thing is certain, there is power in the story. So starting with this episode, we will be telling you, our listeners, a story. This story will begin in segment 2 of this episode and will continue through all remaining episodes of this season, 10 episodes to be exact. This story happens to be fictional, however, some elements, towns, locations, or historical events may have some truth to them. But before we cut to our PSA and then begin part 1 of our story, we'd like to talk a little bit about the importance of storytelling in the context of marketing and business. Rebecca, could you explain the importance of storytelling?
Of course, storytelling has been a fundamental part of human culture for centuries. Storytelling involves the craft of using words, images, or other forms of communication to convey a narrative or message to an audience. In the context of business or marketing, some of the most successful marketing campaigns involve storytelling. Clever businesses tell stories that connect with their customers. And if a business can positively connect to the emotions of a customer, they may very well create a customer for life, especially if that business doesn't screw up that relationship along the way. I'm going to pass it over to Premi and Anhao, and they will talk about 5 key storytelling structures that are commonly used.
Alright, let's get to it. The first structure is the classic pyramid structure, also known as Freytag's pyramid. Created as a dramatic structure by German 19th century writer Freytag, the structure organizes the tragic into a straightforward narration, the beginning, the middle, and the end. Specifically, it can be further divided into introduction, rising action, climax, return or fall, and then you guessed it, catastrophe. It is a formula for tragedy, after all. Though less applicable to works that are not tragedies, Freytag drew inspiration from classical Greek tragedy and Shakespearean drama.
Next up, possibly the most common story structure in the English-speaking world, the 3-act story structure is a classic structure that includes a beginning, midpoint, and a climax. Each of these points are part of the 3 acts of the structure, which are the setup, the confrontation, and the resolution. The protagonist is usually faced with a choice that spurs them on a decision, but depending on the setting of the story, the reaction can differ.
Moving on to our next structure, Dan Harmon's circle is coined as the embryo, and in other words, is an 8-step storytelling shortcut. The first step, a character is in a zone of comfort. Life is a predictable pattern. Then the next step, but they want something. It is this desire that drives the protagonist to take action. The third step, they enter an unfamiliar situation. A protagonist then decides to cross the threshold in an unfamiliar situation to meet their desires. The fourth step, to adapt to it. They acquire new skills and learn how to survive in this new world. The next step, get what they want. The character finally achieves their goal, but with a twist. It comes with a cost. The sixth step, pay a heavy price for it. Victory is celebrated, but only losses and failures follow soon thereafter. The next step, then return to their familiar situation. The character goes back to where they started. And finally, our last step, having changed. They're changed and they bring the lessons they've learned with them. The Dan Harmon circle can be adapted to fit many narratives and plots, becoming a structure that is commonly used.
This next story structure consists of 7 different points in the story. While similar to the 3-act structure, this story structure is relatively new and employs more conflicts and turning points for the protagonist. There is a hook, where the characters are introduced and the setting is established. A plot turn starts off the story, but then the protagonist or protagonists encounters a pitch, introducing a conflict. The midpoint occurs when the protagonist decides to take action. Shortly after, however, another pinch or conflict occurs, making all hope seem lost. The last plot turn occurs shortly after when the protagonist discovers something that helps them overturn the situation, leading to the resolution where the protagonist emerges triumphant. Shows that have used this structure are The Hunger Games and Star Trek, for example.
And moving on to our final common story structure is the hero's journey. The hero's journey structure is most definitely a classic structure that has been used in many, many stories. For instance, Theseus, the Minotaur, and The Lion King. The hero's journey structure typically follows their hero as they begin their journey, facing obstacles and challenges while meeting new friends, concluding with a safe return home, transformed with new knowledge and experiences. This structure is usually divided into 3 acts, with each consisting of 4 steps. The first act consists of the ordinary world, call to adventure, and refusal of the call, and meeting the mentor. Now moving along, the second act brings us crossing the first threshold, tests, allies, enemies, approach to the inmost cave, and ordeal. That's your hero's biggest test. The story closes out with reward, or in other words, seizing the sword, followed by the rope back, resurrection, and finally return with the elixir.
Thank you for explaining some of the common story structures used. Maybe you've heard of something called a story arc or narrative arc. These can also be known as story structures. Next, Chania and Rebecca will discuss some well-known stories and what narrative arc these stories followed.
Alright, the first narrative arc I'll be introducing is the Rags to Riches story arc. This story arc transitions in a continuous upward manner and works towards a happily ever after. The story typically starts at a negative value and slowly reaches a positive value near the end. You can see this type of story arc in Disney's Tangled movie and Matilda by Roald Dahl.
Man in the Hole story arc has a follow the rise movement. This is one of the most common and highly rated arcs, where the slope rises and falls, and then rises and falls again. In J.R. Tolkien's classic tale, The Hobbit, the main character Bilbo Baggins embarks on an incredibly journey that mirrors the narrative pattern of the literary trope known as Man in the Hole, in which the protagonist experiences a fall from grace followed by a rise in personal growth and redemption.
Alright now, the next story arc is the Freytag's Pyramid story arc. In this story arc, the story starts off at a negative value and then enters a positive value in the middle. As the story ends, it then transitions back down at a negative value. So in short, the story starts off bad, reaches something good, and then descends back down to something bad. You can find this type of story arc in The Hunger Games and Titanic.
Cinderella is the classic example of the rags to riches story arc. She starts off as a young girl who is mistreated by her stepmother and stepsisters, but finds hope and love through a magical transformation. One example of this narrative arc is when Cinderella's fairy godmother helps her attend the royal ball, where she captures the heart of the prince. Another example is when the prince searches the kingdom for the mysterious girl who left behind a glass slipper, leading to Cinderella's eventual recognition and happy ending. In the Rags and Riches story arc, the movement is a continuous upward climb toward happily ever after.
Thank you, and this is such helpful information, not only from the perspective of creative writing, but this is the kind of information that can enhance a company's marketing and advertising significantly. If you've ever watched the American Super Bowl game, besides the actual football game, there's another source of entertainment that airs during breaks in that game. It's all the Super Bowl commercials. According to the USA Today, for this year's Super Bowl game, each 30-second commercial costs $7 million, and that did not include production cost. That was just for airtime. Advertising agencies have the difficulty of producing a commercial that tells a story for a particular brand in a 30-second window. Sometimes they get it right, and sometimes they get it wrong. When they do get it right, that story commercial can live on for years in people's hearts and minds. All right, and with that said, we are done with this segment and done talking about story structure. We'll be right back after this short PSA announcement.
1, 2, 3, 4.
St. Patrick's Day is celebrated on March 17th. If you like green, or if you are Irish, this holiday is for you. This holiday is a cultural and religious celebration which is held on the anniversary of St. Patrick's death, the foremost patron saint of Ireland. Celebrations often include public parades, festivals in wearing green attire or shamrocks. And finally, Holi, also known as the Festival of Colors, will be celebrated on Monday, March 25th this year. Holi is a popular Hindu festival celebrated in India and other parts of the world. It marks the arrival of spring and the victory of good over evil. And now, over to Camila. Thank you so much for supporting this episode with a PSA announcement.
Hey everyone, this is Camila from North Carolina, the United States, on behalf of the Alexandrian Review. The Alexandrian Review strives to amplify the voices of underrepresented communities, creating a space for their voices to be heard and their stories to be told. We're super excited to be back on the podcast for a PSA shout out again. Thank you to everyone who submitted to our first volume. This time, we have an equally exciting announcement. We're opening a call for editorial, graphic designers, and website coordinators to apply for a staff position for our international lit mag. Open to teens ages 14 to 18. For more details, find us on Instagram or TikTok at Alexandrian Review, or visit our website at https://thealexandrianrevi.wixsite.com/Alexandrian-review. We're super excited to review all of your applications. Apply today.
We are back with our second segment of this episode. In our first segment, we discussed technical aspects of storytelling, such as story structure and narrative arcs that were most commonly used in storytelling. For our remaining episodes of this season, we will dedicate the second segment of each of these episodes to telling a story. My team and I will be writing and producing the story for you. Our story fits the realistic fiction category and could be classified as suspense and mystery. Chania, what does realistic fiction mean in storytelling?
Realistic fiction consists of stories that could have actually occurred in a believable setting. These stories resemble real life. Fictional characters within these stories also react similarly to real people. Realistic fiction stories could be characterized by feasible plots and settings that often reflect real places and/or historical events. Ultimately, the characters in these stories deal with challenges and situations that readers might find relatable or believable.
Thank you, Chania. And without further ado, we present to you a story titled The Secrets of El Dorado, written and produced by the Students Incorporated Season 2 team. And today we'll be reading to you Part 1, titled The Disappearance. Before we get started, we'll introduce the main characters played by us. Chania, go ahead and start us off.
I'll be playing a character named Sierra Reese, a 23-year-old artist known for her creativity and local street murals.
I'll be playing a 24-year-old journalist named Ava Turner. She's been out of college for a year and has been working hard in her first full-time gig for a popular and classic newspaper.
I'll be playing a character named Ethan Brooks, a 26-year-old tech startup burnout who quit his high-paying tech job to open a small cafe.
And I'll be playing a 21-year-old character named Lily Han. She's still in college and she's studying and has a keen interest in forensic science.
And finally, I'll be playing a character named James Hawthorne, a 55-year-old college professor of history and archaeology. The Secrets of El Dorado, Preface, the setting and the characters. In the heart of California, nestled within the Sierra Nevada foothills, lies the quaint town of Coloma. This small town, just a 40-minute drive from Sacramento, holds a significant place in history. It was here at Sutter's Mill in January of 1848 that James W. Marshall stumbled upon gold, igniting the famous California gold rush. This event marked the beginning of a transformative era, drawing thousands of fortune seekers to California in hopes of striking it rich. The entire area surrounding Coloma became the epicenter of this historical event, forever etching its place into the annals of American history. Today, Coloma is part of El Dorado County. It's a classic American town that thrives on a blend of agriculture, tourism, and education. El Dorado College, which opened in 1948, exactly 100 years after the beginning of the gold rush, helps contribute to Coloma's vibrant, young, and energetic community. El Dorado County and College were named after the legendary treasure city of South America, sought by the early Spanish explorers in the 16th century. Gold, wealth, and riches are etched into the heritage of this place. The county is full of natural beauty and is a haven for adventure enthusiasts and nature lovers alike. Whether it's whitewater rafting on the rivers, downhill skiing in the winter, boating on nearby Lake Tahoe, hiking, camping, or simply enjoying the breathtaking scenery, El Dorado County has a lot to offer.
This is Ava Turner, and let me tell you a little bit about myself. I'm 24 years old and have been out of school for about a year now. I actually grew up in Coloma and have always enjoyed the history and mystery of the town and its past. I enjoy coming back to visit whenever I can, and one of my best friends, Sierra, still lives and works here. My parents moved away a year ago, but that doesn't keep me away from there, as there's so many places that I still call home. And growing up, I always wanted to be a reporter. Maybe it's because I watched one too many of those crime and mystery shows. Either way, I was thrilled when the Sacramento Bee, a well-known and famous newspaper, hired me right after I finished my undergrad degree in journalism at Cal State. The Bee has been around for over 165 years, and it's a well-respected news source for the area. I'm currently working as one of their junior investigative journalists. I love finding the story behind the story, and then piecing all the elements together like a puzzle. I'm not sure what I like better, the investigation part or the writing part. I'm curious, tenacious, and maybe even a little bit reckless. I'm also really passionate about the inequalities and injustices I see in the world. I hope to make a difference by raising awareness through journalism and telling stories. Above all, I seek truth and I want to report and write my stories with this principle.
Hi, I'm Sierra Reese. Like Ava said, we are best friends and have known each other since elementary school, even though she's a year older than me. I'm 23 years old and I just graduated from El Dorado College with a degree in art education. I not only love to make art, but I love to teach it as well. In fact, if you notice some of the murals around town, you'll probably see my signature at the bottom, along with others who collaborated with me. Growing up in this town, I have always been amazed at the natural beauty of this place, which inspired me to do the murals that you see in town along Main Street. These are done pro bono, of course. I'm currently working as a barista at Ethan's Cafe, what's now known as Ethan's Cafe. This job has helped me pay for college. I'm super thankful for this job, and it will be such a sad day when I have to move on, as I'm looking for a new job in the field of education where I'd like to teach art full-time. I've got to put that expensive degree to good use now. I'm creative, empathetic, and I have a good intuition when it comes to situations. My job at the cafe also helps keep me connected to the town gossip, for good or bad.
I'm Ethan Brooks, the cafe owner. I bought and took over the cafe a little over a year ago from the previous owners who were retiring at that time. I sunk a lot of money into the place to revamp the menu, replace old equipment, and fix it up. It's in a good location in Colombo. My investment has paid off as the place is pretty much always full. My life took a significant turn over a year ago when I left the tech company I helped start in San Jose. I still own shares in the company, and it continues to do good, but I just got completely burnt out working 80-hour weeks for 5 straight years in Silicon Valley. Man, it was fun while it lasted, but it essentially felt like I was just a tool. I'd say I'm pretty good at tech. I graduated from the University of San Francisco, one of the Bay Area's top tech universities, when I was just 21 years old. I completed both my undergraduate and graduate degree in just under 3 years. To be honest, I don't know what will happen in the future, but I'm content with my quiet, peaceful life running a cafe here for now. I'm quiet, measured, and concise, and I feel like I have a good intuition when it comes to the uncertainty of some situations. Being known as a cafe owner instead of a techie is fine with me.
Hello, I'm Lily Han. I'm from Beijing, China, and I'm in the US studying forensic science at El Dorado College. This college, although it is small in comparison to Cal State or UCLA, has a great science department with a lot of different specialties. Many of the US best forensic scientists from the last 20 years have either studied here or have been guest speakers or lecturers. We even know about this program back in China. I applied for a general science scholarship during my last year of high school in China, and I was one of the 3 people who won. The only 2 other people are at different universities. I just finished my 3rd year with 1 more to go before I'm done with my undergrad degree. I'm not exactly sure what I will do when I graduate. I'd really like to stay in the US and keep studying or find a job. I do miss my family though. My study group this year spent a lot of time at Ethan's Cafe. We feel like it's our home away from home. We love that place, especially since the new owner took it over. The staff are friendly and helpful. They even let us stay late sometimes to finish our studies. I'm analytically friendly and consistent. I like to think of myself as having the voice of reason when it comes to working with other people. I secretly love adventure, but still just did not have much opportunity for that until I came to the US for college. I love to help others, and I tend to see the good in everyone.
Professor James Hawthorne here. My life is quite stable and pleasant at the moment. Well, I guess you could say it's been that way for a long time now. I'm sure my wife would agree with me on that. I'm 55 years old and I'm a professor of history and archaeology at El Dorado College. I've been on staff at the school for close to 25 years now. Before that, I worked in Mexico and parts of South America on several archaeological digs as an independent contractor. That's where I met my wife as she worked on several of my dig teams. After having kids, we needed to settle down, so we moved back to California, where we're both from. We settled in Coloma because of the job at the college. This community, the town, and the area is just a great place to live and raise a family, and it's full of a rich history which has always fascinated me. Our 2 kids are now grown and moved away, but often come back and visit when their work schedules allow. My wife is well connected in the local co-op and farmers market, which have basically become a full-time job for her now. I've done a lot of study on the history of this area. I've written several books about the people, locations, and the events that have helped shape this place, with the special focus on the mid-1800s, the time before, during, and after the famous gold rush. I know a lot about the town, its lore, its secrets, and some of its mysteries. Some are true, and some seem just to be legends. Sometimes it's hard to separate truth from fiction, I guess. I'm adventurous, knowledgeable, and somewhat of a pessimist. However, I try to keep that latter attribute hidden from my students at the college. I've been to most of the historical locations throughout the county, exploring and looking for relics and artifacts, not only from the gold rush days, but also from the Native American cultures that resided here as well. I'm always up for an adventure.
Part 1. The Disappearance.
It's early June in Coloma, and this small town is bustling with activity and excitement. The annual Gold Rush Festival just began and the college spring semester ended, which ushers in almost 3 months of peak tourist season. El Dorado College, situated near Coloma's downtown district, has an undergraduate student population of about 4,000 students. Some of these students return home for the summer. However, many of them stick around town. The town's population swells during the summer months, which is great for both the local businesses and for all the broke college kids looking to make some extra money. And if you're a tourist, it's really hard to find last-minute vacancies at hotels, Airbnbs, and even campsites. It's always advisable to book well in advance. There is one main street running down the center of town. It's a popular street lined with historical buildings, charm, and some of the best food and activities in the county. Ethan's Cafe, a well-known local hangout spot, is known for its amazing pastrami sandwich and root beer floats, although they don't start serving those until 11 a.m. each day. But before 11, they have an amazing assortment of coffees and pastries. Ethan's, as the locals call it now, sits on one of the busiest corners on Main Street opposite the bank and post office.
Sierra loves the summertime crowds in the cafe. She gets to meet so many interesting people from all over the world, especially this time of the year during the 2-week-long Gold Rush Festival. Not to mention, she gets to work a lot of extra hours. She needs the extra money because she's been wanting to trade in her old car for something newer and more reliable. She barely made it through this last winter season with the old piece of junk she still drives around. It's the second full day of the Gold Rush Festival in Coloma, and Sierra is working a long day shift which started at 6 o'clock a.m. It's mid-morning and she just came off her first break. Sierra notices Lily coming into the shop and gives her a quick smile. Sierra knows Lily quite well, along with Lily's study group from this past semester. Lily and her college friends would come into the cafe quite regularly to study and hang out. Lily orders her usual and looks around to find a seat. The cafe is quite full already, so Lily tells Sierra that she is going to stand by the door and wait for a table to clear before she sits down. Sierra asks, "You're not going to sit up at the bar?" Lily explains to Sierra that she's meeting someone in a few minutes, so she'd like to sit close to the door. After all, she doesn't want to miss Chen when he walks in.
Ava is already about 30 minutes into her first article of a series that she's writing for the Bee. She too is in the cafe and just finished her second cup of coffee. The article that she's researching and writing are focused on the Gold Rush Festival, but she wants to add a slight twist. The Bee's editor wanted Ava to get out of the newsroom and work on a series of summer articles that the Bee could publish over the course of the next few months. The Bee has been losing some of its readership over the last few years, partly due to the hot political climate that exists in the country right now. So the editors wanted to get back to some of the paper's original roots of focus stories about local and regional topics. Ava notices Lily standing up close to her table that is situated by one of the front windows and close to the front door. Since Ava is sitting at the table with 2 chairs, she offers the open chair to Lily. You can sit here if you'd like, Ava tells Lily, and then points to the empty chair at her table.
Oh, thank you so much, but I'm actually waiting for someone, Lily responds. Lily's body language gives off the vibes of being anxious and worried. Lily notices Sierra walking toward her with her order, an Americano and a fresh baked scone. It's too early for lunch yet, and it's a little past 10 in the morning. Sierra also makes eye contact with Ava, who's sitting right next to where Lily is standing, and says a quick hello.
Ava says to Sierra, "You can put that on my table while she waits for another table. There's plenty of space."
Sierra responds, I saw you in here yesterday, but I was too busy to chat. Are you here working, or are you on vacation, or both?
Kind of both, Ava says.
Oh, by the way, this is Lily, she says this as she nods towards Lily. She's here studying in the science department at the college.
Hi, I'm Ava. Sierra and I go way back. We grew up together in Coloma. It's nice to meet you, Lily. And if you don't mind me asking, where are you originally from? Ava asked Lily.
Lily responds, I was born and raised in Beijing, China, and I'm here on a science scholarship. I just finished my 3rd year and I have 1 more left before I graduate.
Come on, you can sit here while you wait. It's no problem at all. And I need to take a break from looking at my laptop screen anyway, Ava says.
I'd take a break with you too if I haven't just gotten off my morning break, Sierra says as she glances back at Ethan scrambling around behind the counter, helping get customer orders ready.
Ava continues to notice that Lily is quite anxious and nervous, so she asks, "Is everything okay? Are you worried about something?"
Lily answers as she sits down in the empty chair across from Ava. I was supposed to meet someone here about 30 minutes ago, but they still haven't shown up, and they are the type of people who's never late.
Well, you can sit here for as long as you want, Ava tells Lily.
Sierra chimes in. As much as I like to be part of this conversation, I'm getting the get over here and help me look from Ethan, so I better get back to work.
All of a sudden, Lily just starts explaining to Ava what happened and what this meetup with this another person was all about. Lily explains, I received a text message last evening from an acquaintance of mine, someone I don't know very well, and it seemed urgent and didn't make a lot of sense. Lily shows Ava the text message. Ava noticed that the name of the person who sent it was Chen.
The message reads, I know we don't know each other very well, but it's important that we meet tomorrow morning in person if possible. It's quite urgent and there's something I need to give you for safekeeping. Ava notices that Lily responded and said, okay, we could meet somewhere public like Ethan's cafe at 10 a.m. Chen replied then read, yes, see you then, thanks.
Sierra lingered around just enough time to hear most of that conversation before she went back behind the counter and started taking more customer orders.
And that ends part 1. Thank you for listening. Tune in next episode for the continuation of the Secrets of El Dorado, where we will read part 2, which is titled Uncovering Secrets. As we end this episode, I'm reminded that stories have power and the ability to communicate far better than maybe a list of bullet points or a long lecture in a classroom. And from a business and marketing perspective, if you want to connect in a deeper and more meaningful way with your customers, tell them a story and make them the hero of that story. Make sure to tune in to the next episode as we continue to tell the story of the Secret of El Dorado. And as always, this podcast would not be possible without the hard work and support of our international student production team.
All music and sound effects are courtesy of Pixabay.com, a vibrant community of creatives sharing copyright-free images, videos, and music.
And we are signing off until next time. We are Students Incorporated, because your voice matters.